How does the Christian community live a distinctive life within a world in which it sees itself as a community of exiles and aliens? That's the question the writer of 1 Peter explores in today's epistle reading from the daily lectionary. Yesterday, we noted the tension between living as aliens and exiles on the one hand and being a kingdom of priests, interceding on behalf of the world on the other. There are many different ways Christian communities have answered this question, a question which H. Richard Niebuhr called the enduring problem. The writer of 1 Peter has a particular answer, and it is counterintuitive. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas, and this is your daily devotional for Thursday, November 30th, 2023. In the kind of Christian community I inhabit, most of us don't think of the Christian community as being radically different from the culture in which we live. But among us are some Christian communities that do in fact see themselves as radically different from the culture. Communities like these exist on both sides of what I would call the theological spectrum. Some of these communities exist by withdrawing from the world as much as they can, while others actively oppose the cultures in which they are embedded. I encountered a couple of representatives of this latter kind of community last Thursday as my wife and I were walking from our car to AT&T Stadium to watch the Dallas Cowboys play. On a street corner were two young men with a portable loudspeaker system, preaching to the crowds walking past. Their condemnations of what they believed to be the dominant permissive culture were raw and bitter. But they clearly represented one way of differentiating the Christian community from what it understands to be that dominant culture. But withdrawing from the world or attacking it are not the only ways to resolve the tension between church and world. The writer of 1 Peter, who clearly understood the Christian community to be distinct from the world around it, actually called upon the church to live in the world as faithful citizens, not as rebels. Here's how he begins to spell it out. Beloved, I urge you as aliens and exiles, there's that aliens and exiles language again, I urge you to abstain from the desires of the flesh that wage war against the soul. Conduct yourselves honorably among the Gentiles, so that though they malign you as evildoers, they may see your honorable deeds and glorify God when he comes to judge. For the Lord's sake, accept the authority of every human institution, whether of the emperor as supreme, or of governors as sent by him to punish those who do wrong and to praise those who do right. For it is God's will that by doing right you should silence the ignorance of the foolish. As servants of God, live as free people, yet do not use your freedom as a pretext for evil. Honor everyone. Love the family of believers. Fear God, honor the emperor. It sure sounds as though 1 Peter exhorts believers to oppose the dominant culture by abstaining from that culture's practices, but notice that what he calls for is not for the members of the Christian community to oppose the culture, it is to abstain from the desires of the flesh, things that are tempting to all people, not just those in the outside world. Then notice that he encourages believers to live as faithful subjects of the dominant culture, accepting the authority of every human institution, including the Roman emperor. I cannot stress how important, even shocking, this would have been. For in the Roman world, the emperor was considered to be a god, and it was the duty of citizens to offer sacrifices to Caesar as Lord. This the church could not do, but they could honor and obey the emperor as leader of the government. This is a really nuanced position. It acknowledges that while Christians could not participate in the religious cult of Caesar, they could, and absolutely should, respect Caesar as the head of government. No rejecting Caesar outright just because they could not worship him. Remarkable. The rest of 1 Peter 2 and the first half of chapter 3 go into more detail about how believers should live, even living under oppressive institutions like slavery and male-dominated marriages, not because they are good in and of themselves, but because in doing so they might bear witness to Jesus Christ, who himself willingly submitted to human institutions and suffered. The strategy here isn't just to go along to get along. No, it is to demonstrate by their faithful obedience the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ. As he says in 1 Peter 2:21, part of the call for slaves to obey their unjust masters, "For this you have been called because Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example, so that you should follow in his steps." And to what end? Well, we'll take that question up in tomorrow's reading. But for now, may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.